In this video, I'm going to show you how to paint an acrylic ocean for beginners step by step. I'm going to be posting a brand new painting tutorial every week, so make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out. Leave a comment below and let me know what you would like the next tutorial to be. I also have a Patreon page where you can support the channel further and get studio updates from me. We've got a lovely close-knit community growing there where I can chat to each of you, so I will link my Patreon page in the description box. But for now, let's get stuck into today's painting tutorial, how to paint an acrylic ocean for beginners. And don't forget, if you post online, make sure to tag me in as I love seeing your creations. So let's get started for today's painting. We're going to be using a few different brushes here. I've got all flat brushes in size 12, 8 and 4, and also a palette knife that we're going to be using at the end to create the nice sea spray. The colours that I've got here are titanium white, sap green, ultramarine blue, cad red and cad orange, and I've also just got a little jar of water here and a paper towel. So feel free to go and grab yourself a nice cozy warm drink and enjoy the painting coming together, or if you want to follow along and paint it yourself, please do feel free. But remember to tag me on Instagram because I absolutely love seeing your versions of these tutorials. So anyway, let's crack on with the first layer. So to start with, I'm going to be using the biggest brush because we can cover the most surface area for the first layers. So I'm just going to damp that in the water and just take off the excess water so that it's just damp. And I'm going to start by just blocking in a little bit of what we're going to be painting. So taking some of the blue with a bit of orange. I'm going to pop in the horizon line, which I want to be about a third up in the sky. So we've got the sky here, the ocean here, and then we're going to block in some of the rocks that we want the ocean spray to come off of. Don't worry too much about this. This is just the blocking in stage, so we will be going over this. Okay, so that's like the basic shapes of what we're going to be painting. So now I'm going to start with the sky. So taking some titanium white, a little bit of blue, and a little bit of red. With a bit of water to help it spread along the canvas more easily. Just going to take that into this first top area here. And I really like using big brushes because not only does it cover the surface quickly, but it kind of allows you to be able to create really interesting shapes and brush strokes. And I just really like that more impressionistic feel, and big brushes really help that to kind of happen naturally. They're also really great at blending, so if you want a nice blend in the sky, then a big brush is the way to go. And whilst that is still wet, I'm going to take some of the white and just kind of, I don't know really, just pop in some white to try and mimic clouds. I don't want the too much focus to be on the sky because we're going to be having the sea spray come over it, but just to give it a little bit of interest so it's not completely plain. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. And I'm going to rinse off my brush now. So next we need to create the first like sort of background layer for the sea. So taking a very similar mixture, I'm going to add a little bit of orange into this one because that will tone down the blue. So if you mix blue and orange together, because they are opposites on the colour wheel, they take down each other's saturation so that it's not quite as bright. And I'm going to add just a little bit of the red in there as well, just to warm it up. I really want today's painting to be more like muted colours. I do like bright colours and I use a lot of them, but especially in seascapes and especially in today's painting, I'd quite like to keep these colours really muted. Almost like, you know, sort of like a grey day at the beach. It's a little bit colder and you feel the sea spray on your face. That's the sort of vibe that I'm going for today. And because I am terrible at straight lines, you can actually just get a ruler and just see where it comes to. So it comes to about 10. And then you can use that throughout the painting. So it definitely moves. So let's just take it up a little bit here. Oops, that's too much. You see, it's just an ongoing thing. I always get it wrong. That'll do. That's close enough for me for now anyway. And as it gets closer, I'm just going to add in more white. Okay, I think that's a really nice base layer. I'm going to wash out my brush really well. And I'm going to have a sip of coffee. So when that layer is pretty much dry, I'm going to go in with some details with the palette knife next. So I'm going to take some of the blue and add in some orange so that we create like a dark blue, but it's muted in colour. It's not like a vibrant, saturated colour. I feel like that's really nice. I like that colour a lot. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just drag this over to create some texture in the sea and just to create a bit of depth. I'm going to create that same mixture again. But this time we're going to add a little bit of white to that. And again. And this time even more white. And this is going to create some really nice texture whilst adding a little bit of depth into the sea. So I'm going to wipe off my palette knife now. Okay, so I'm pretty much happy with that. As I say, it's just more of a background anyway. We're going to build on top of that. So next what we're going to do is pop in these rocks. So I'm going to take my medium brush. This is a size 8 and it's flat, which is a really nice shape to be working with when you're building rocks up out of the ocean. I'm going to just replace my blue because it's all gone. And so this time, rather than using orange to tone down the blue, we're going to use the blue to tone down the orange. So taking some orange here, just add a little bit of blue, and you'll see that it gets to a brown. I also need more white. So I'm going to start off with a very desaturated colour, so I'm going to add a little bit more blue into that, almost so it's like a grey. That's about right. And now I'm just going to block in where I want the rocks and sort of decide on the form and the shape and where I want them to jut out. And so this is really why a flat edge is great, because you can really, it's kind of like building the rocks with the shape of the brush. Okay, so now I've built the basic rock formations. I'm going to rinse off my brush. So now it's going to be all about those light to dark values, which are going to make the rocks stand out. I do want to wait for this to dry, so once this is dry, we'll come back and work out some of those values. So it's kind of up to you if you want to work dark to light or light to dark. Generally, I work dark to light because I'm used to oils, and that's more of the way that you work with oils. So that's what I'm going to do. Obviously we've actually started with the mid-range, but I'm going to go in with the darker details next. So taking some orange and adding some blue, we're going to make that same brown, but this time we're not going to add any white. So we want it really dark, and you can even get away with adding a bit more blue than orange, so it sits more on the blue scale of colour than it does on the orange, but that's okay because it's going to be a really dark, intense colour. And obviously blue is going to match the colour scheme that we're going for anyway, because there's a lot of blue there. So using this, I'm just going to add a little bit of water to make it more viscous. And just very much like we did with the rocks, I'm going to sort of carve into that, what we've already built up, to create some shadows. And we will be going over this with a lighter range as well, so don't worry too much. It's kind of like a jigsaw at this point. You know, it's never going to look good with just a few of the pieces. You have to build up a lot of the pieces till you see the picture really coming together. Okay, so since we've got that mixture, we can actually just add to it. So I'm going to add a bit more orange in here. So now we've got like a darker blue, cooler tone. I want to add in some warmer tones. So it's still dark, as you can see, but it's got more of that warmth in it. There's more of that orange. So now I'm going to add in, and it's still going to be very much the shadows, but they're going to be warm shadows instead of cool shadows. Okay, lovely. So next we're going to again recreate a similar mixture, but we're going to start adding white in now, which we're going to be the highlights. So this is kind of a similar colour to what we put down first, but I'm just going to go in and sort of refine some of those details. And again, I'm going to add white to that same mixture, so we're kind of getting lighter and lighter now. So this is going to be kind of like where the water is sitting on top of the rocks and it's reflecting. Okay, lovely. So I'm going to rinse out my brush now. So next what I want to do is blend in the rocks to the bottom part here, because we haven't really added anything onto here. So I'm going to start off with a bit of a darker mixture with the dark blue and orange, because we kind of need to put these shadows in with the rocks. So obviously when there's a shallow water, you do see a bit of the rock underneath. So I'm just going to add in some of those shadows. But mostly it is going to be water. So we do want a light blue. And I'm going to add in a little bit of green to that. And we're going to use this to sort of block in some of the parts of the water that's going to be spilling over these rocks. Okay, so then next I'm going to add in some white to that same mixture. And again, just going to start to add in those little details, those little highlights, just catch your eye. And I'm going to bring that down into the foreground too. And this is like going to be all like foamy water. Okay, so next we're going to start building in the crashing waves then. To do that, the first colour that I want to use is Ultramarine. I might pop it over here actually to stop it getting mixed in with the other colours we've made. And I'm going to add a little bit of red in. And just working in a circular motion, I'm just going to bring that up. Almost like a kind of shadow to the sea spray that we're going to be putting on soon. So just working in a circular motion. Then taking the palette knife, I want to use this like aqua colour. We might need a bit more though. So to do that I had ultramarine, a bit of green and lots of white. Okay, so that's about the colour that I'm looking for. It's quite light and it's lighter than what we've been putting down so far. So taking that on the bottom of my palette knife and just gently touching the palette knife onto the canvas and working in a circular motion. I'm just going to take that from the rock, coming up behind it, and with a palette knife it's really nice to kind of use these sweeping motions, and that's what kind of gives the life into the painting. Okay, and I'm gonna just gonna put my palette knife in some water and then wipe off any paint on there. I'm gonna need some more white paint. White paint is always the one that you go through the most. So if you're ever buying white paint, buy a lot of it because you will use it. So next I'm gonna take some of the white, I'm gonna pop it onto this part of the palette that we were using before, but I don't want to necessarily like add lots of colours because we really want to start building up those whites now. So taking that on my palette knife, I'm just gonna go over like some of the bits that we've just done, and that's just gonna really bring out those highlights. So you can see that the layers we've done prior to this, we're sort of building in the background, and these are going to be the highlights on top. But what's nice about it is that it also does mix with the layers underneath. So it is nice to do it while it's still wet rather than waiting for that to dry. taking this up really high, but I kind of like that. And then lastly, just want to take that same colour down into the rocks, like it's spilling over. So I think that is it. I think I've finished. So I want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed seeing that painting come together. If you did paint along, make sure you tag me on Instagram at KatieJoblingArt. I'd absolutely love to see your creations. And if you would like to support me, please do check out my Patreon page. Let me know in the comments which tutorial you guys would like to see next, and I'll see you there.